Over the past 3 decades, video game consoles have become ingrained in our cultures and identities in society. From hardcore gamers to casual mobile simulator players, everyone seems to be a gamer. Why is that? Why do people identify as gamers? Why do people want to play games? And how do they get from where they were to where they are now? Why do people want to play them? I asked these people about their history with their video game consoles.
What's the first video game console you owned?
PS1.
Did that influence your decision on consoles today?
Well, I did at one point like the PS, and then I switched to the Xbox One, and then onto a computer.
Okay.
Thank you.
Console you own?
It was PS2.
Did that influence your decision on consoles today?
Not really. What influences my console choice is if I could play with my mates on it, because I'd rather do that than just get exclusives.
Okay, thank you.
My first video game console was a PS2, which my dad gave it to me because he got a new one, so he gave his old one to me.
Did that influence your choice on video game consoles today?
Yes, because I now own a PS4. I did go to Xbox for a bit, but I always preferred PlayStation.
Thank you, sir.
Let's travel back to 1972, when the Magnavox Odyssey released. The console was bundled in with playing cards, paper money and dice to enhance the experience. Nintendo, originally a playing card manufacturer, saw what the Magnavox Odyssey had done and made their own brand of consoles in 1979, called the Milton Bradley Microvision. Releasing their Game & Watch handheld line in 1980 to 1981, each handheld featured an LCD screen with 2 different playable modes. Nintendo then released their first home console in 1983, named the Nintendo Entertainment System. This console was capable of playing arcade games live on a home TV. Nintendo made their first major handheld console in 1989, dubbed the Game Boy. It was mainly known for housing the first generation of Pokemon games, Red and Green in Japan, Red and Blue in America and Europe. Nintendo then released the successor to the NES in 1990, called the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. The SNES was the start of a well-known franchise, Mario Kart. Originally called Super Mario Kart, you got put into the Mario universe racing against classic characters such as Mario, Luigi, Peach, Bowser and more. In 1990, Sony attempted a partnership with Nintendo to make a CD add-on for the SNES. This failed when Nintendo announced its partnership with Philips instead. Using the knowledge they gained from Nintendo, Sony made the PlayStation 1. Nintendo released the Nintendo 64 in 1996. It was the first console to have 4 controller ports and 3D graphics. This redefined the gaming genre with games such as Super Mario 64 and Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. The 3D graphics allowed for different game mechanics and camera angles. Nintendo released the successor to the Game Boy in 1998, named the Game Boy Color. It featured a color display and was able to play all Game Boy games, along with games made for the color. The best-selling games of the Game Boy Color is Pokemon Gold and Silver. Sony released the PlayStation 2 in 2000. Being a direct successor to the PS1, the PS2 was able to play every PS1 game along with all PS2 games. The PS2 also included external memory cards, which is a way of saving your progress during a game you're playing so you can come back to it later. The PS2 sold over 155 million units during its time. Nintendo released the GameCube in 2001, being their second console to use 3D graphics, but also their first console to use CD discs instead of cartridges. The use of the CD discs allowed for more data to be stored on them easily, allowing for better quality games. Most games on the GameCube were sequels to franchises already established on the N64, Super Mario Sunshine, Metroid Prime, and Legend of Zelda: Wind Waker. However, it was the start for some franchises, such as Animal Crossing, which already had a release on the N64 in Japan, Pikmin, and Chibi Robo. Microsoft, feeling that personal computers were being threatened as a form of entertainment by consoles, made their own in 2001 called the Xbox. The Xbox was more powerful than its competitors since it featured a hard disk drive instead of a CD disk drive. Nintendo released a Game Boy Advance in 2001, an upgraded Game Boy allowing for 32-bit graphics. It also had an accessory that allowed it to connect to other advances through the internet rather than using a link cable, which was the Game Boy and Game Boy Color's method of connecting with each other. Nintendo released the Nintendo Dual Screen in 2004. The DS was Nintendo's first console to have a microphone and a touchscreen. These features revolutionized the handheld console era. Microsoft released the Xbox 360 in 2005. To help me with the Xboxes moving forwards, I am interviewing an Xbox lore expert. What features did the Xbox 360 have?
The Xbox 360 was the successor to the Xbox, featuring a paid subscription service called Xbox Live.
What features did Xbox Live grant the buyer?
This allowed people to play games with other people all over the world, access music from the console's digital store, and access third-party content.
Was there any problems with the 360 at launch?
Yeah, the Xbox 360 was in short supply and they weren't able to fully meet the demand. This made the console rare and people were willing to pay double the price to get one. Another major problem with the 360 was its red ring of death, which echoed Windows' blue screen of death. Because of this, Microsoft effectively lost $1 billion.
Sony released a PlayStation 3 in 2006. It was the first console to use a Blu-ray disc as a primary storage medium. This allowed the game's data to be stored both on the disc and on the console's hard disk drive. However, the PS3 received mixed reception upon release, due to overpricing upon release and lack of quality gains for the system. Sony recovered from this by releasing a slim model for the PSP, which was more affordable than the original variant. In 2006, Nintendo released the Wii. The Wii was targeted towards a more wider audience, including casual gamers and people that have never played a video game before. Since most of the games mimicked real-life actions that you can perform, the Wiimote was mainly focused on motion controls and a pointer. Wii Sports and Wii Play were made to showcase the different features of the Wiimote, Wii Sports being for the motion controls, Wii Play being for the pointer. The Wii was also the first console to introduce a virtual console. This meant that the Wii was able to play NES and SNES games via emulation. Nintendo then released the 3DS in 2011. The main feature that had people stick with it for years was the use of glasses-free 3D effects. This feature was used to help with depth perception in games such as Super Mario 3D Land. The 3DS enhanced Nintendo's online experiences. Most games use Nintendo's Wi-Fi connection to be able to play online with people all over the world. In 2012, Nintendo released the Wii U, a direct successor to the Nintendo Wii. The Wii U was able to play every game that the Wii had. The gamepad housed a touchscreen and a microphone, and wirelessly streamed from the video output of the console. The gamepad was designed to provide an alternative or cooperative experience during gameplay. In 2013, Sony released the PlayStation 4. Being the successor to the PlayStation 3, Sony recognized what was wrong with the PS3 and made it worse with the PS4. Critics praised Sony for acknowledging what they did wrong with the PlayStation 3 and amending it in the PlayStation 4 by giving it quality, exclusive games for the console.
The Xbox One release in 2013, Microsoft marketed it as an all-in-one entertainment system, placing emphasis on cloud gaming.
Was there any downsides with the console when it launched?
The only major downside was that it required the Kinect to work.
And what was the Kinect?
The Kinect was a camera and microphone accessory that was optional for the Xbox 360 and had some exclusive games that would only work with it. But when they released the Xbox One, they decided that they were going to make it mandatory and bundle it with all consoles.
Did the issue get fixed later on in the console's life?
It did, yeah.
In 2017, Nintendo released the Nintendo Switch, a home console and handheld hybrid. The Switch houses a touchscreen, detachable controllers, and a dock. The dock allowed the Switch's gameplay to be streamed via a HDMI cable to a TV or monitor. The controllers, named Joy-Cons, housed both motion controls and HD Rumble. HD Rumble accurately vibrated the controllers so that it would sync up with what's happening during gameplay. Now we're getting on to the next generation of consoles as of 2022. The PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X and S. Sony released the PlayStation 5 during the pandemic of 2020. The console was showcased to have full backwards compatibility with the PS4. The PlayStation 5's main features include ray tracing, which is accurately rendering any beams of sunlight or reflections, along with the controllers having haptic feedback, which would make the controllers vibrate depending on the situation the player in the game was in, and also including forced feedback on the triggers, An example being, if you push down a lever, the triggers will push against you as you try to pull the trigger down, making it like there is weight on the trigger. The PS5 has two versions, both with and without a disc drive. The version of a console without a disc drive is more affordable than the console with a disc drive. When was the Xbox Series X and S released?
They were both released during the pandemic, just like Sony's PS5.
What are the features of a Series S and X?
The main feature is that they ran 4K graphics along with higher frame rates and real-time ray tracing.
Is there any difference between the two consoles?
Yeah, the Series X doesn't have a disc drive, which makes it digital only, but it does have a more powerful GPU, but a less powerful CPU. The Series X is the complete opposite, with a disc drive, a less powerful GPU, and a more powerful CPU.
Did Microsoft showcase anything at the console's launch?
Yeah, Microsoft positioned both first and third-party games to be available on both the Xbox One and the Series S and X. This would, of course, help consumers transition between the different consoles and didn't pressure anyone into getting the new console straight away.
Video game consoles I owned whilst growing up was the Xbox 360 and Nintendo Wii. The games I played on them was Mario Kart Wii and Wii Sports, two of the most popular games for the system. Because of the game's popularities, we are the first two games that show up whenever you think of a console. The games I played on the Xbox 360 was Minecraft, a sandbox game, and Burnout Paradise, which is a free-roam racing game. I enjoyed Minecraft because I like sandbox games that allows for creativity. I enjoyed Burnout Paradise because I am an avid fan of racing games. Thank you for watching my documentary on the history of video game consoles. I hope it has given you some insight onto where video game consoles were as to where they are now.